It's the time of year when wherever you turn, there are billboards and ad campaigns urging you to get your flu shot, and many people will do that. Most won't. Only about a third of Canadians get their flu shot every year, and there's all kinds of reasons why they don't. People think they're healthy, so they don't need it. They think it doesn't work, that it causes side effects, it's too inconvenient. Dr. Seema Marwaha has done some research on the kinds of messages people hear about getting the flu shot and just how effective those messages are. She's an internal medicine doctor in Toronto, originally from Edmonton. Hello, Dr. Marwaha.
Hi.
Hello. Well, why do you think that so many people still don't get their flu shot, even after we hear the statistics about especially vulnerable people who don't survive?
I think it's a combination of things. I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of people think that the flu shot will make them sick, or maybe that it contains chemicals that might make them sick. Some people have gotten the vaccine and they've gotten sick anyway, so they think that the vaccine doesn't do anything. And then there's always those people every year that know that it's a good idea, but they drag their feet. They have good intentions, but they just don't get around to it. But, I think the majority of people, they have a little bit of information or lived experience, and a lot of them are saying no for the wrong reasons.
So, for example, people who have the shot and get sick anyway, what's going on there?
I think that this is where a lot of the public debate really comes from. Part of the problem is that a lot of people casually use the word flu to describe any kind of cough or cold that happens during the wintertime. But the flu only protects you against one virus called influenza, which we think is particularly bad. But there are actually 100 other viruses out there that can cause flu-like symptoms. So it's possible for you to get the flu shot and get another type of virus where this vaccine won't protect you. And then there's some situations where the vaccine will only give you partial immunity. So you still get the flu, but it's less severe.
And why do experts say that you should get the flu shot, even despite some of those messages out there that might compel you to do otherwise?
It's the best we have. And actually, interestingly, this year, there have been some outbreaks earlier than expected in October, early October. And we know the strain of the flu that's out there in those outbreaks. It's called H3N2. And it's actually a more severe type of strain than we've had in past years. And our vaccine this year is actually a pretty good match. So I think for this year, there's definitely a good, compelling reason to get it. But in general, we tell people to get it for two reasons that I think are true any year. The first is protect yourself, especially if you're vulnerable, like you mentioned. Those are people who are older, children, have cancer. They get the shot to protect themselves from getting the flu or a severe form of the flu. But healthy people need to get it too. And I think this is what people don't understand. Healthy people spread the virus. We actually call them, in medical terms, super spreaders.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because when they get sick, they're the ones that are actually well enough to go out with it. They'll go to the grocery store, they'll go to work, they'll take the subway, and they're contagious and they're spreading it. Yeah. And when those people take the vaccine, even if they get the flu, they spread it for almost half the amount of time. There really is a good reason for healthy people and vulnerable people to get it.
Yeah, and I think it's really compelling when you think about, would you want to give the flu to somebody who might die from the flu? That's really compelling. Do we need to hear more of that kind of messaging? Or in your opinion, why isn't the messaging effective?
We definitely need to hear more of that messaging. We need to make people feel like it's the community's responsibility to protect people. I think that type of really personal messaging is needed. I think some of the mistakes that we've made in the past is oversimplifying, maybe over-promising a little bit and under-delivering. But if you tell someone, get the vaccine, it will for sure protect you, and then that person goes on and they get sick, they might never trust your messaging again. So I think you kind of have to not oversell the flu vaccine because it has its limitations, but there still is pretty good reasons to get it anyway.
Yeah, you could say it's your best chance, right? Your best shot. Isn't there a campaign going on in Toronto right now, in fact, about a little boy who died from the flu, and they're, I guess, making the best of the situation and making that part of their campaign?
100%. This little boy died in the hospital actually that I work at in Mississauga. And in response, his parents have launched a social media campaign with these really gorgeous pictures of their son. And the idea is exactly that, to remind people that deaths like his can be preventable and it's up to all of us. And that they alone couldn't protect him and that it's the community's responsibility. I think the pictures, the messaging, the campaign, very relatable. It could be anyone's kid. And I think that's actually a really effective approach to reach some people.
Wow, good for the family, I guess, for taking part in the campaign. It must be painful in one sense to do that. And there are healthcare workers who don't get the shot. Does that undermine the effectiveness of the campaign?
I think it definitely does. And I think the thing about healthcare workers is that we are just like everyone else. And there are the same communication challenges that exist in the healthcare environment that they do in the general public. And I think that healthcare workers have some basic medical knowledge, so they can be harder to convince. And they're just also very busy. Like sometimes, during flu season, they're working multiple shifts, and sometimes it's a time related thing. But figuring out healthcare workers is key because they are sort of the classic super spreaders. They work with really vulnerable people and they can spread the virus if they come to work sick.
Needless to say,